Welcome to RMD Podcast with me, your host, Dr. Debra Durst, and I have my co-host with me.
Hello, my name is Farideh Golembiewski, and I am a board certified family nurse practitioner here at RevitalyzeMD.
So I specialize in regenerative medicine and have a practice, RevitalyzeMD, in Knoxville that we see patients for wellness. And also we specialize in or focus in on sexual medicine. So we have a podcast, RevMD podcast, that talks a lot of things sexual medicine and lots of videos on those. And this is RMD podcast, which is more wellness focused and regenerative medicine focused. So today we want to talk more about overall wellness when we're sleeping well. That's the topic for today. How can we optimize it? What are some tools that we can use? But also, how do hormones play a role? And do they play a role?
So, sleep really is the foundation of all,
For
right?
everything.
It really is. When our sleep is off, it affects so many different other facets of
Yes.
our body. It really does. So, today we're going to break that down and talk about some of those and how sleep plays that role.
Yeah. I mean, it can even be as simple as skin. Like I can notice a difference in my skin just when I haven't slept well. And obviously stress plays a role in that. And when I'm stressed and I'm not sleeping well, that
And that leads
happens.
us to
So
one of the
that's
main
just
ones
that's
is
just a
mental,
simple
our mental health.
mental health. What are you trying to say, girl?
Well, I don't know. You're the one that's like, oh, I can just tell, and then I don't sleep well, and then there
Yes.
we go.
You just went
Stress
right to the
levels.
mental. I wasn't
Went right
sure.
to the
Yeah.
mental. We're going to talk about stress. We might as well.
Yeah. No, it is a foundation for mental health, physical health, overall performance. But again, if you are not sleeping well, you're not going to think well, you're not going to think clearly, your mood's off, you're moody the next day, your focus is bad, all of that. And then physical, I mean, you don't want to work out, you don't work out well, you don't recover
You're
well.
in the gym, but you're going through the motions. You're not
Yes.
really putting the effort in because you're just drained.
Or you don't even feel like getting to the gym. So it is crucial. And then even immune support, those simple functions that happen, those are physical and
And
performance related. And
yeah.
so,
And healing. Healing's another one. Our
yeah,
body's ability to heal.
yeah,
If you're not sleeping well, you're not healing well.
yes. Yeah, it plays overall such an important key to optimizing that. And so many simple things that we can do. And so we're going to give you some strategies that will help you fall, stay, and even return to sleep if you wake up in the middle of the night, because that's a common thing that we hear as well. And so I know that there's been a lot of podcasts on it, and Andrew Huberman has a great podcast on sleep. And it's a complete and very long one, but it's awesome for tools that you can use, and it goes into those. But we'll touch on those tools that you can do at home. So the factors that control it, light and dark, control a lot. So the factors that control it, light and dark, control a lot. And so that podcast again was very enlightening for me because it goes into it way beyond something that I had went into before. But a lot of our patients have issues with sleep, and hormones do play a huge role. But also just optimizing those tools they can do at home in addition to hormones is important. So
So when we're
light, yeah.
talking about light and dark, we're talking about morning, sunlight, and then dark being PM at night and healthy habits around that. So we'll
Correct.
start
Yeah.
with the light, which is
Yeah.
the morning. It's about sunlight.
Yeah, so getting outside, maybe within 30 to 60 minutes of getting up, getting sun in, and really as close to getting up as possible, because as we get up, our body starts to warm, and that cortisol is going to spike when our body gets warm, and we want that spike to happen early. And if we get out and we get sun exposure, that kind of sets that pattern of cortisol increase in peak in the morning, and that cortisol is going to regulate our melatonin spike later in about 16 hours later. So that consistent too, up at the same time, out as soon as possible, will help peak that cortisol and set your melatonin cortisol clock so that you have a good sleep and or a good wake and sleep cycle with
Absolutely.
consistency.
And
And
I think that's something that I'm hearing more and more about, right? So as we become, right, more focused on aging well and living well, and we're digging into it and we're looking at outside options, right? Not just taking these pills and these medications. We're looking at how to be healthier as a whole, I feel like. The sunlight directly upon awakening has been a newer thing. So, really, the first time it was brought to my attention was when I got my whoop. It's one of the questions is, were you exposed to sunlight within 30 minutes? And I was like, why is it asking me that? Well, I don't know, like through my window. What does it mean? So it's looking into it. Oh, okay, no, sunlight, like going outside and actually being exposed to the sunlight, waking up and moving. And like you said, waking up, that getting that cortisol spike so that it can then regulate that melatonin later on throughout the day
Yes.
too. It's really
Yeah.
important, but it's interesting because that's a newer concept that I wasn't very familiar with. I never would have
No,
thought that I
correct.
needed to wake up and go get sunlight immediately.
Correct. And I think that we talk a lot more about it because it's becoming a more commonly talked about subject, but also we have patients every day that are talking to us about sleep issues. And as we age, that decline happens. And so we'll talk about some other things to avoid, but anything that you can do to optimize it is key as you get older because it's so easy. Things so easily interfere with your sleep. But yes, getting out in its sunlight, again, sunlight exposure, depending on, whether it's a cloudy or it's a bright day, where you are in location as well. But also, sunlight can be almost 5 times to up to like almost 90 times, I think, what an indoor light can be. So it's important to try to get outside and just if it's more cloud cover and it's cloudier or you don't have a sunny area that you live in, then just spend more time outside because there's eye receptors, photoreceptors in the back of the eye that communicate with the brain to, again, regulate your wake sleep cycles. And so it's crucial, but it also helps wash out something that might keep you up. Like adenosine is something that rises throughout the day and it makes us tired. And it's something that, caffeine can antagonize to help us wake up, but it helps wash that out. It helps, stimulate that cortisol peak in the morning, and that sets that cortisol melatonin relationship so that we can then fall asleep later. About 16 hours later our melatonin should peak and spike. So but also then we'll get to, so when we're talking about light regulating sleep, so dark at night, just not having bright lights on at night, not having your TV on.
No phone. That's a
Yes.
big one. Our phones, we're all so connected to our phones. Putting your phone down.
Yes. And, even blue light, blockers where you just aren't. And there's other, again, Ben Greenfield will talk about way more, in-depth things that he'll do with it. But I think one of the key things that I heard from him that I really like is I would sit in bed and work late. And even though I wouldn't have the computer on and the laptop on at a very bright, but just eliminating work from your bedroom and your bed and not doing it because that should be something that you're thinking of. You lay down and it's sleep and it is not anything related to work. And then you are naturally taking the light out. And then there's little apps you can do on your phone that decrease your phone exposure if you have it on, but just having that, not right next to your bed is probably
Absolutely.
key.
So it's funny because we talk about all that, but it's sleep hygiene, right?
Yes.
You
Yeah.
said, you mentioned a little bit earlier about waking up at the same time. Well, it's also important to go to bed at the same time.
Correct.
It's
Yeah.
that sleep hygiene. It's putting the phones down. It's putting the computer down. It's keeping the TV off. It's getting into bed about the same time every single night and having it dark in the room.
Correct. And if you have type A personality at all, I think
Can't
turning off
imagine
the
who.
brain, I know, turning off the brain to anything that is going to be stimulatory, even a book, is probably working against you at night because then it gets you thinking. And then unless if you have just the right type of, you know, minimal stimulatory activity with that light, but really just putting all of that away and making the bedroom just strictly a place where you're going to sleep. Well, other things too, but going to sleep. And so that you're at least not working, put it that way. And so temperature is another one of those factors that regulate. And so right after we get up, the temperature in our body starts to increase, and that's going to help your cortisol peak. And so that is important, but also just cooling things. And this is a relatively progressive area that is talked about more is cooling before sleep, cooling during sleep, not sleeping where it's hot, where it might wake you up. And there's mattresses, and there are things you can do to cool yourself.
And science
But
supports that. Science supports sleeping in a cooler environment to get into a deeper sleep, to remain in that sleep. So there are beds now that will cool you down where there's a cooling mechanism in it. In my house, our thermometer is set. Our temperature drops in our house based on our sleep cycle. That it drops below, it drops 5 degrees around the time we get into bed, and it drops another 5 after that to mimic that colder environment, just because the science is so strong now with all these smart machines out there, right? I can just set a sleep schedule where
yes,
it'll
yeah,
drop it and cool it off the house and then warm it back up slowly around the time it's time to wake up.
yeah. Yeah, so there is good science around that. That's probably one of the more
Yeah.
difficult things that I have to do because I don't really like to be cold when I'm going to sleep. But I'm getting used to it. I'm
But
trying.
neither do I. But I
Yeah.
will say that now when I don't sleep at home, I wake up hot in warmer environments. I don't sleep as well. And I
Yes.
have
Yeah.
noticed that now that it's become a habit, and we've been doing this in my house for about a year now. So now I really notice it. It makes it kind of difficult.
Makes it difficult. Well, good. Maybe I just need to be
You just
a
got to cool
little
your
push it,
house.
push it
You're
a
asleep, you
little.
won't even know it's cold.
No, my house has been a lot colder recently, so it's been running cold. But anyhow, food is another thing, and I think this is a big one. Making sure that you're at least 2 hours before you go to bed, that you're not eating, like to cut off a certain time. And we talk to patients about that from just an overall health, maybe an intermittent fast, going for a longer period of time without eating, and that actually also, helps regulate multiple hormones. And so when or when weight gain is an issue for perimenopause and menopause, just an intermittent fasting, making sure you don't eat after a certain period of time. But if you eat late in the night, then your cortisol is going to rise because it rises when our blood sugar rises, and therefore it's going to interfere with sleep. So it could be
And
just as
that's
simple
the
as that.
opposite of what we want it to do.
Correct.
At night, your cortisol level should be low.
Yes. So just not eating after a certain time frame and definitely 2 hours before bed. And that is significant. Exercising too late at night too can also increase your cortisol spike. And maybe getting some of that exercise in, but a light exercise first thing in the morning, we want our cortisol to spike, is what we should attempt to do instead.
And
And
then it
then,
also helps cardiovascular health. And,
yes. Well, I think
there
that
is that benefit too, not just sleep.
Well, I think that being, again, an overall, I am almost looking at like an exercise, like a walk, like a simple, gentle walk
Yes.
in the morning to increase it. And again, I think for me, I'm not usually, I really love a workout in the morning, but a really hard workout in the morning, you have to mentally prep for. And I'm not ready for that as soon as I get out of bed. I'm not going to get right out of bed and go, hit it hard at the gym. But I love walking and getting outside first thing in the
And
morning
just
and that
helping that
gentle,
in
yes,
cortisol
yeah.
increase a little
Yeah.
bit.
And we will do another podcast because even that steps per day and people talking about walking with weighted vests, but really even just getting 10,000 steps a day and why that is important is something we can talk about. But so getting a little bit of that and just getting your heart going in the morning and getting that light exposure.
Another is caffeine. That's a big one.
Yes. Yeah.
That is something that we talk to patients about often. I feel like it gets brought up. Oh, I'll just cut all caffeine out. Well, we don't have to cut all caffeine out. It's
Yes.
just timing of caffeine.
Yeah. You just don't want to do it too late. Definitely after 2 p.m. and maybe even a little bit later than that. And also knowing what's right for you. Because if you have trouble sleeping and you're doing it too late, maybe you need to make it earlier and just, figure out how that works for you because alcohol is right up there too. So the intake of caffeine and alcohol, because alcohol might help you fall asleep, but it's not going to help you stay asleep. And
It's not
so,
going to be restful sleep.
yeah, and it does, again, it's like eating. If you are drinking alcohol, it's going to spike your cortisol because your blood sugar is going up. And so, not too late and too close to bed.
And then
Or
core
at all,
sleep.
really.
Core
Yeah.
sleep isn't
Yeah.
restful sleep. So,
Yeah.
if you're drinking until you pass out, that's not restful sleep. If you're taking medications to go to sleep, that's not restful sleep.
Yeah.
That all plays a role as well.
Yeah. And supplements are another thing that can actually help. Magnesium is one of them. L-theanine is another. But really, avoiding some medications that help you with sleep would be better.
Yes.
So optimizing sleep without needing medications
Yeah.
is key.
And that's what I was referring to as pharmacologicals.
Yes. Yeah.
Pharmacy medications, not our natural supplements that do. Like
Correct.
magnesium
Yeah.
is fantastic.
Yeah. And then we come to hormones because, again, we can't address sleep comprehensively as we age unless we're addressing hormones. We have women that are doing all the right things and they're very progressive in thought. And by the time they reach our office, they have tried everything that we have listed above. They've listened to the podcast, they've all kinds of different podcasts, they have read books, they have
Made
tried
all the lifestyle
everything.
changes. I'm working out every day. I'm eating healthy. I've made all the lifestyle changes and I just don't know what else to do at this point.
Yes.
And usually we see pretty quickly it's hormonal.
Yeah. So hormones play a big role in that for men and for women. And if we're talking about the hormones that do, progesterone, testosterone, estrogen has a small effect, but there's some other effects. It can, but we see more with progesterone and testosterone. And then of course we have the sex hormones of melatonin and cortisol that we've already talked about. So when we're talking about progesterone, progesterone really is your feel good hormone. So it has brain receptors there that are going to increase GABA, help you sleep. It helps with mood. And it is a huge game changer for women. So it can be life changing for women. And a lot of women, once they're on progesterone and the improvement in sleep they have, they are not giving it up.
No, because then it plays a role in their energy levels the next day. It plays a role in balancing estrogen, so it can help with preventing night sweats.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it is a game changer for many women, but it helps with relaxation, it helps with sleep significantly.
Yes, no, I agree. And progesterone's big, but testosterone is one of those other ones. When people, I think testosterone, they think men, but testosterone is the most abundant circulating hormone in a woman's body too. Women need it, and it plays a huge role in sleep. So there's a lot of myths out there. If you think about testosterone, you think about aggression and people that are overly aggressive and that's not the case at all. You actually feel better. When you feel better, your mood is better, your sleep is better, and it has a significant impact and improvement for sleep for both men and for women.
Especially deep restorative sleep.
Yes, absolutely important and life changing for women in many ways, and for women and for men in many ways, but also with sleep with both of them. And we hear that across the board.
And also with sleep apnea. So that's actually an interesting one. We have a sleep center locally, and I've had some guys that have come in and said, "Oh, well, my sleep doc said that once I'm on a CPAP, my testosterone will improve." So we do see some improvement, but it's not going to change that significantly. So definitely, even if you are seeing a sleep doctor and on a CPAP and they're saying, "Oh, your testosterone will get fixed with this," making sure that we have that checked. That's something newer I'm hearing a little bit more of in the office. So I wanted to make sure to bring that up when we talk about how low testosterone can interrupt sleep, because it can, but then also with sleep apnea, it plays a role as well.
Well, and we have done a podcast in the past with Dr. Mock, who's written a book on sleep apnea and the benefits of treating that. And it must be treated because there are lots of things that are bad outcomes if you don't treat sleep apnea. So it's important to diagnose and to treat. But you also can't even lose weight unless if you treat it. So a lot of people with resistant weight loss that have sleep apnea, you will not see that weight reduction until you actually treat the underlying condition. But so yeah, you're right
And low
though.
testosterone
Yeah.
contributes to sleep
Yeah.
apnea, but
Yeah.
on the other hand, just getting a CPAP isn't always the fix, right? We always look for these quick fixes. We always need to fix underlying as well.
And so, if sleep is an issue and you have sleep apnea, thinking about just putting on that machine sometimes cannot help you sleep potentially. But there are some other things that you can do with laser tightening at the back of the throat that's very helpful for sleep. And it's a treatment called
Potentially.
night lace that is absolutely fantastic for treating without a machine.
And I
And
say
it is highly effective. Yes.
potentially prevent you from being on one or
Yes.
not needing one anymore.
Correct. So those are the tools for, again, improving sleep, correcting all those lifestyle things, but also thinking about hormones, just knowing that hormones can play a role. And so definitely talk to your doctor about having your hormones checked if you're still doing all those things and having issues with sleep. So let us know your thoughts, what you're doing, any tricks that we may not have mentioned, any supplements you might use that we're not thinking or that we didn't list in the podcast. And overall, we want to hear your experience. We appreciate you tuning in, and please like and subscribe, share with friends if you like the content we're putting out. So let us know what you want to hear more of, because we are willing to deep dive into anything wellness or sexual wellness.